that my generation took the South African struggle as a pivotal Nigerian struggle. And I recall so well, Mr. President, that the man who later became the leader of the Nigerian Senate, and I'm referring to your late father, Mr. Senate President, was in the forefront of the South African Relief Fund. He gave a lot of his substance, and he urged other Nigerians to do so. In secondary school, we began what was called the Self-Denial Fund, and every Friday we contributed money for needy areas of the world, and the bulk of our money went to help the then apartheid South Africans with millions of our black brothers and sisters on their near slavery. Years later, we remember that the late MKO Abiola, also after he had become a multi-millionaire, was in the forefront of the struggle against apartheid. And we were all so happy in the mid-70s when the government led by Mohamed Ramadan Murtala made Africa his cornerstone and proclaimed, among other things, that a certain percentage of the admissions in Nigerian universities must be reserved for our brothers and sisters suffering severe discrimination in South Africa, the then Rhodesia, later called Zimbabwe, and of course Angola. And I remember so well, I had left the university then, that when the Nigerian government began to ration rooms such that second-year students could no longer stay on campus, our brothers and sisters from Southern Africa were exempted from this room. They could stay on campus throughout the years of being students. But they were not the only ones who benefited from the kindness and the brotherliness of the Nigerian people. South Africans should be reminded that it was Nigeria that gave asylum to so many of their leaders who were being persecuted at the time. Becky lived in Nigeria during the struggle against Sani Abacha. I had the privilege of visiting Archbishop Tutu, and as I got to his room, I met a woman there who was called Mama Nigeria, because she used to live in Nigeria, and she began to dance Nigerian dance. And she said to Archbishop Tutu that God will not forgive you if you abandon Nigeria in his hour of need. When I then got to the US, I'm proud to say that I later became the president of the Nigerian Student Union, and I was the chairman of the Political Action Committee of the African Student Union. At the time that our children are being slaughtered, we wish their senators would not make this a laughing matter. Mr. President, sir, even then in the USA, Nigerian students were the vanguard of pushing for divestment of European and US interests in South African economy. I went and changed myself with other African students to Russell Bidding in Atlanta to draw attention to the change that our brothers and sisters were under in South Africa. I had to be taken to court, prosecuted, warned to be of good behavior just because I was praying and working for the freedom of our brothers and sisters. What are they saying? They are saying that Nigerians are coming to South Africa to work. If a Nigerian commits crime anywhere in the world, including Nigeria, let that Nigerian be persecuted. But if you give a person work permit and he comes, and then he's leaving that work and going home, and you go and attack him, a country that grants you visa has undertaken to give you security over your life and your property. Mr. President, sir, the largest university of South Africa had an open interview for its vice chancellor in 1996. A Nigerian came first and was given the job. Is it a crime to excel to the extent that in an open interview, it wasn't secret, it was televised? At that same time, two other Nigerians were vice chancellors of South African universities. I can understand how this might brew some animosity and resentment. But let's remind South Africa that the most prosperous nations of the world are the ones who open their arms and their doors and their hearts to talent from all over the world. Mr. President, sir, it breaks my heart to see that having done so much for South Africa, that South Africa, in our lifetime, will forget the contribution of Nigeria. I'm glad that the Deputy President alluded to the fact that it was because of South Africa that we face sanctions from Britain. Let's now remind South Africa what they may not remember, that for every penny a Nigerian makes in South Africa, South Africa are making multiples of that in Nigeria. MTN belongs to South Africa. Maybe South Africa will force Nigeria to send MTN going. DSTV belongs to South Africa. Maybe we can now also put pressure for DSTV to go. After all, many times MTN will drop your line. You will send your text and it will not be delivered. Oh yes, we used to have Kingsway, we used to have UTC and Leventis. Now it is ShopRite from South Africa. Maybe it is time for ShopRite to go. But I don't want that. Honestly, I don't. I want an open society that welcomes all. But I also want that those we welcome must treat us with dignity, must treat us with respect, and must treat us with the traditional humaneness that Africans are known for. I pray that we will, as the Deputy Senate President said, lead a delegation to the Parliament of South Africa to know that, look, Rofo has not a one-way traffic. If you want to do Poto and Rofo, we can do the same. I pray we don't. Thank you.
Senator